All right, here we go. It is an exciting time as we are ending in week 1 of the Knights of Lorcana League. And we are currently right now at about 85 competitors who are entering the league and going to be starting with us whether in week 2 or have already joined us in week 1. So it is an exciting time to be able to have all of this going on, and this is going to be such a great time. Now we have some great competitors coming at you today and 2 newcomers to the league as well. We are going against here some guy that you might know as the lore content fam, in other words, HeartThrobbed, versus NateDog. Now, NateDog is a really interesting competitor as well because he has gone ahead and already won his first match and is looking to go ahead and win number 2. And so this is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be curious to see what he is going to be able to do to win. And so both competitors are going to be able to go ahead and get things going. And then what we are going to be seeing here is, what you're going to get. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they are going to do. Right now, they are currently having a little bit of mic issues in Pixelborn, so it might be a second before we get started. So yeah, looks like we are ready. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes. And at the same time, especially the hardest part about this league as well necessarily is that when you go ahead and have a ton of new people, and we had about 35 new people join this league, which is just absolutely insane. And so with that, there is just a lot going on here, and you don't necessarily know what people are playing. And like I said, you can go ahead and switch decks anytime that you want, so long as it is not during a match. And so, for example, I played Steel Song in my first match, and then I completely switched up and played items in my second match. And so, you can switch it up all you want. So it could be very different where, for example, you might be seeing NateDog, who is going to be maybe playing, Ruby Steel or things like that. And then he could very well be going into a completely different deck with that as well. And so there is a lot going on here. And the more that you're going to be able to see, the more people are going to be able to climb up or down the leaderboard and know who you are going against and kind of what to expect. And that's going to be the biggest thing, too, just the competition that this league has. We have some beginners, which is perfectly great. This is a great place to learn. We have a lot of support from some really great veterans that have been able to help build and refine deck lists and things of that nature as well. And we have a lot of people who are just looking for practice and, trying to get better in this league as well. And it's just really cool, the community that we've been able to build here. We have over 200 people in this Discord right now, and so that is pretty amazing. And so it looks like we are getting started with a Jafar going down for the ink and a Mickey Mouse. What's that Mickey's name? Wet Mickey? I don't know. The Paint Mickey? I don't know. Whatever it's called. Sticky Mickey. That was right. I'm like, Wet Mickey. That's not. I know that's not right, but. And so here we go, though. It's going to be something that's going to be really interesting. And the new Jafar is actually really interesting, too. Being able to add, +2 to a character can be a really big game changer. Kind of like a miniature crab, even though, the crab is the same cost as that Jafar. But still being able to have that kind of ability going in. And it looks like we might be going against a discard here and versus a aggro Blue Steel. And so this is going to be a very interesting matchup here, especially because the nice part is NateDog is still going to be able to go ahead and play his game, which is nice. If he was going more for the item build, discard can really shut down and hurt items. But being more of an aggro build that NateDog is going to be playing here, this is going to be a really good one. And yes, this is currently game 1 versus HeartThrobbed and NateDog. And so this is going to be a very interesting match for us all. So it's going to be fun to see what these competitors are going to be able to do. But knowing what your opponent has in their hand is already going to be a big advantage for HeartThrobbed here. And it's going to be curious to see what he's going to be able to do. Now, of course, he is still going to be going ahead and inking the Benja, which is going to be an interesting choice, especially because you know that your opponent is going to be playing items. And especially when you go against an aggro build of Blue Steel, that's going to be an interesting choice as well, just because they don't necessarily have a ton of items. And for example, NateDog very well might only be running 8 items. So if you can take one out and not give that Hiram an option to get that +2 card draw, then you might be in a very good shape. But at the same time, especially in this new meta, this is going to be an interesting one as well, because there is a good chance that there won't necessarily be even a Hiram maybe in his deck. He might not have or might not want to take up the 4 card slots for maybe hitting it, one of the 8 items that he has in the deck. That's yet to be seen, and we'll see what happens. But still, being able to get rid of that Diablo as soon as possible is going to be the right move to make. And being able to also top deck a Strength of a Raging Fire is going to be an absolute game changer right there for NateDog, and a great move right there for him. The Ursula, though, is an absolute catalyst here for discard. Being able to go ahead and hopefully get rid of, a lot of the songs that are going to be so dangerous, for your Diablos and whatnot, and hoping to get some good removal, that's going to just be absolutely crucial. And being able to hard cast another Diablo is going to be, just a great move right here. And then it looks like we are going to be having the Ursula that is going to be questing instead of attacking. Otherwise, you would be pretty much trading into the Smee, and that's not necessarily anything to write home about. That's nothing that you're going to necessarily like. And the hard part is, too, if there is potentially even a Popsicle that might be coming out, you could go ahead and get, the 2 damage onto the Smee, play the Popsicle, go ahead and banish the Popsicle, heal the Smee, and he's back down to 0 again, which can be a very viable turn. But right now we're seeing NateDog moving incredibly fast with his ramp, and being able to also go ahead and play a Alice as well, and the Alice has ward on it, and then when it quests, it can add 1 lore to another character and give that character ward as well. Now, at the same time, though, this Diablo is still going to be a little bit of a difficult road to walk on. At the same time, though, with also the Prince John, if you start getting some discards going, this can be a very dangerous road to have to walk on. At the same time, though, you got to be feeling a little bit good if you're on NateDog's side, being able to see that they were able to ink the Ursula. And I mean, that's the Ursula that can sing for 3 cost. I mean, and that is just such a good card to see inked, because it can go ahead and double play every single action. And especially with bounce backs or discards being able to be sung by Ursula, that is something so scary. Not as, I mean, that's about as scary too. A double Alice on the board, that is a lot of lore that could potentially be gained. And at the same time, the difficult part about especially going against, discard in this case, is discard targets a lot, but it does not necessarily have a whole lot of attack. But that cat, that is an angry cat, and that cat will be able to put a lot of work in against this aggro. But again, is this going to be a little too late here? Because yes, while that cat is able to come in, it is still drying, of course, which won't be able to attack in just yet. But still, I mean, going in and being able to at least take out some of the Alices are going to be a great move to be able to take down here. And you got to be so careful about how you go and maneuver around this. It is a very difficult setup that you have to be able to maintain here, especially with, HeartThrobbed having, an 8 deficit, or, an 8 differential of lore. That can be, incredibly difficult to have to go through, but it looks like they are going to be attacking into the Alice to be able to get things moving here, instead of going for the lore gain here. And even the Prince John, it looks like, is going to be potentially getting involved. And this is interesting, too, because the Prince John has ward. But that's also necessarily telling me that, Lorcana, even if he does have bounce back cards, it's going to be so difficult to be able to get your opponent to be able to discard anything. And then also at the same time, NateDog necessarily won't have anything that's going to be, any cards in hand necessarily for the discard to be able to target. But here's the kicker. That is insane because the Alice will go ahead and quest and target the Mickey, giving it ward and giving it the ability to quest for 2. The other Alice is going to quest and give the Mickey double ward and give it 1 more ink. So it's going all of them are going to be able to quest for 4 and 7 total in that case. And so unless everything is able to be taken out, and yes, the cat will be able to definitely take out something, but this aggro build right here has been able to put in just absolute work and move incredibly fast. And the ward right here is saving NateDog right here from going ahead and not being able to get, a lot of movement here. I mean, this is exactly the game that NateDog was wanting to have. And yep, it looks like that is going to be a scoop. And so just like that, it looks like NateDog has gone ahead and taken game 1. And I mean, that's the thing. And I gotta say this, that's one of the more interesting builds of Sapphire that you're going to be able to have here is the fact that you are going to be able to have the ability to play a lot of warded characters. And that is going to be so difficult, especially if you have, the Ursula that is coming out onto the board and it can double sing songs. If you can't target anything on your opponent's board, then you're just going to be finding yourself at a loss. And that's exactly what we were seeing here. There was just nothing that, they were able to do. You can go ahead and get your opponent to be able to discard, from their hand directly. But at the same time, it's like, Sapphire Steel Aggro is able to basically manage itself, get its board built, and then play top deck for the rest of the game if it so chooses. And there's a couple of different variants that we might necessarily see, but this might be even a full aggro build. And going on the ward front here is going to be just a really intense option for NateDog and a great option for him in this matchup as well. Now, of course, at the same time, HeartThrobbed is going to be able to go first. And that could be a pretty big game changer right there. And so it's going to be fun to see what then HeartThrobbed is going to be able to do. If he can go ahead and get the Diablo out turn 1, go ahead and discard the action, go and get the, the Diablo out on turn 2, and hopefully be able to get rid of the Ursula, or get rid of any songs, and get some card draw, and get some options down before the warded members are able to get out, or get them discarded before they're able to come out onto the field. Then we might be able to see that HeartThrobbed has a chance. But we are going to be going into game 2. That was a very quick game 1 right there. And so it's going to be interesting to see then what is going to be happening for game 2. So thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of this cast. We could not do this without you, especially those who are a part of the league. If you want to be a part of the league, go ahead and join the Discord down below. I'm still sick, but that's okay. And with that, you can go ahead and sign up. We play a 15-week season. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this is going to go. But anyway, it's so great to have everyone here a part of this league. And here we go. Here we go, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Still getting over a sickness, like I said. And it looks like the bell is going to be coming out on turn 1 for NateDog, which is going to be a big advantage right there, right off the bat. And again, the Ursula coming out. Inking a beast, though. That's going to be an interesting choice. But no removal. Still, though, that is a scary hand to be going against with discard. 2 items, a Hiram in hand, a Pete in hand, and a Sticky Mickey. I mean, come on. Does it get much better than that for NateDog? And that is going to be yet to see. That is a scary hand for HeartThrobbed to be able to see, and it's like, how do you play around that? Especially every turn that you're going in. There's both items going in. Drawing 2 right there, and if he goes ahead and puts out another bell that he might be able to top deck here, that's just going to be absolutely scary. But still, he's going to be questing for 1 and passing right there. And so this is going to be a big turn right here for HeartThrobbed, and going to need to be able to get into this game sooner rather than later, especially with the cards that NateDog has in hand. I mean, that is one of the best starts that you could potentially see right there. Being able to get a bell out, have additional items in hand, and then also having the Hiram to be able to get some more card draw as well. And so we don't necessarily know what HeartThrobbed has in his hand, but still the Ursula is going to be coming out, and so that's going to be telling you that, hey, they are going to still be able to go ahead and get things moving with, double singing some pretty scary songs that might be coming out. And so it's like you very well could be, I mean, the Calhoun could come out and everything, and then if you just double storm it or something like that with the Ursula, that's not necessarily a big loss. You're still going to be able to draw 2 cards, and you're still going to be able to deal 2 damage to the Calhoun if you go ahead and play that out. And so right now, NateDog is going to need to figure out how to play around the actions that, that HeartThrobbed is saying that they have. And this is going to be an interesting game. But again, you have to be weary of all the warded characters that they could potentially have in NateDog's arsenal. And so he's going to be going ahead and inking up Heat. And that's interesting. So that was a top deck right there. So right now, HeartThrobbed, if he does remember, still knows every single card that's going to be in the hand. But still, that is also a great move. And so you're going to be hoping that, the Ursula will have a, storm or something like that to be able to go ahead and get things moving right there. And I mean, this is still going to be a very difficult matchup, especially now the Alices are going to be able to give ward to anything that is going to be coming in. And so, yes, the bell might very well be destroyed here in this case, but that's still not going to be anything to really worry about. That is, a lot of utility, for example, that might be used that won't necessarily be doing a whole lot, especially if you do take it out. And so it's going to be interesting to see then what is going to happen here and what they are going to be able to do to try to get back into this game. You're really hoping that, that HeartThrobbed is going to be able to get some actions and I mean, be able to attack in with certain things, but at the same time, this isn't necessarily anything that's going to be, slowing anything down necessarily. And you're going to be able to also protect the Hiram as well when it comes in and is able to pop one of the items and draw 2 cards as well on the next turn. And so this is just going to be, this is just a very difficult situation for HeartThrobbed here. And it's going to be interesting to see, will he be able to play around this? And I want to see if he's going to be able to. And so we will see. So let's see. This is going to be a big turn right here as well, and it looks like the Pete is going to go ahead and be disc. And so that's going to be a good move right there, stopping any actions from being sung. And then the bell is also going to be taken care of, but the Alice is still going to be safe. And that's going to be the hard part. You won't necessarily be able to, take out the Alice with any actions, but if you do go ahead and attack in, it's still going to be interesting. And that's going to be interesting as well. Questing with the Alice, giving ward to Pluto. And then he comes in as bodyguard. So the Alice is going to be protected so long as, the Pluto is going to be able to go in and do that. Now, of course, do you go ahead and send the Ursula in? And it's like, that is going to be interesting here. And so it looks like that is going to be just discarding more and more of the hand. And NateDog does not have very much left, but he's keeping the Hiram tight. And I really think the Hiram is going to be able to really make sure that things are going to be able to stay maintained. The Hiram is going to be absolute clutch, but a beast coming out is going to be terrifying. Because the biggest thing is, so long as the beast doesn't have any damage on it, you're going to be drawing an additional card. And again, card draw is king for discard. The more options that you have in your hand, the more chances that you have to be able to go ahead and take things on. And so it looks like the the Ursula would be the one to go ahead and attack in on the Pluto. Now, of course, the Popsicles can always go in and heal the Pluto and heal 2 damage, which is just going to be terrifying to have to go through. And so it looks like, yep, the Fortisphere is going to go ahead and be banished. And 2 cards are going to be drawn here. Now, that is a tricky situation. Do you go ahead? Oh, and that's interesting too. You could go ahead and heal with the Popsicle, and then Pluto could just go ahead and outright take down the Ursula, which would be just terrifying right there. But it looks like instead, NateDog is going to be going ahead and questing for 8. The Bodyguard is still going to be in effect. We're unsure of where the ward is going to be placed, but I very well would think that it would be on the Pluto. Now, still, at the same time, there's a good chance that, you know, the Beast would go ahead and attack him, which means the card would not be drawn additionally on the following turn for Beast, but it still would be able to, of course, take down with, you know, potentially the Prince John as well, or the Ursula attacking him, but that would mean no songs would be able to be sung either. And it's like, that's going to be a difficult situation for them to be able to deal with. They still do have 3 cards in hand, though. That's a great amount for HeartThrobbed here. But at the same time, the developed board is already pretty well established for NateDog, and so you just got to be a little bit careful about how you go about this scenario here, because you want to still be able to maintain the cards in hand as Nate, at least, especially with a higher amount onto the field, but you got to be so mindful about the potential cards that discard might be able to have. Now, the interesting thing here is, too, and the nice part is, for at least Nate in this case, is that discard did not change from last set to this set, which is very interesting. It did not change at all. They don't even play necessarily any set 7 cards, really, you know? And so you saw right there, HeartThrobbed go ahead and ask how many cards NateDog had in hand. He said 2, and there are 0, count them 0, actions. But at least HeartThrobbed now knows how many cards are exactly in their hand, and that's going to be a pretty big game changer. Now, going to go ahead and sing Storm to do 4 damage to the Hiram here, and draw 2 cards. And again, the more cards that discard can have in their hand, the better. And right now, it's going to be that, you know, HeartThrobbed needs to have as many cards as possible in hand to be able to maintain this. And so it looks like, yep, both characters are going to be going into the Pluto in that case, and that's going to be a great move as well. But at the same time, there still is going to be, you know, another 4 lore gained potentially, with the Hiram also having ward on it, and the Beast is not going to be drawing an additional card. But still, we see here that on the next turn, HeartThrobbed is going to be having 5 cards in hand, and that's going to be a pretty big deal. The Popsicle, of course, is going to be popped in this case, and there might be something in his hand that he's going to be wanting to give Alice ward for. We saw him discard a Gantu, a big Gantu here that can quest for 4 as well, so if you can go ahead and quest for 2 and give your Gantu ward and guarantee another 4 gained in this case, that is going to be so difficult for, you know, HeartThrobbed to be able to come back for, because you're going to be guaranteeing that you're getting to 16 lore, and there's going to be really no way to stop that. And that's one of the interesting things about this game, is that the fact that you cannot, there are a few exceptions, of course, you know, like with, you know, Li Shang, for example, but there are very few exceptions on being able to target and attack ready characters. And so it's a really interesting safeguard in this game, and something that is pretty unique to Pixelboard, or not Pixelboard, to Lorcana in general. And so it's going to be interesting, though. But I mean, right now, we have HeartThrobbed doing so much right with his board state. The Beast is scary. The Prince John is scary. The Pete is going to be inked. So actions are still going to be viable this next turn. That's going to be a little bit scary as well. The Ursula is going to be alive and well, too, and that's going to be questing for 2, giving ward. I would imagine you would give it to Doc in this case, just to really help get that extra lore gain right there as well. And now, of course, what's interesting, too, is the Alice, if you so choose, one Alice can quest and go ahead and give ward to the other Alice and give it the ability to quest for 1 additional and quest for 3. And then the other Alice can give ward to something else as well. But still, in this case, that's not going to be something that's usually utilized all that much. Still, though, you're going to be seeing 4 more lore, getting NateDog to 15 on this next turn. But at the same time, you're going to be losing an Alice and a Hiram this turn as well. And so that's going to be really interesting to be able to see. So it looks like, yep, the Alice is going to be taken out by Beast in this case. And then the Ursula is just going to hard attack into the Hiram to finish it off as well. So that's a safe net, being able to not have to worry about any additional songs necessarily this turn. But the Pirate Pete, the one card that is actually used from set 7, giving resist to everything on their board state, including itself, which can be such a difficult workaround. So right now, NateDog in this case is going to be needing to think about, how do I get to 20 lore before they are able to just go ahead and race to that 20? And I mean, and that's what this is pretty much going to be turning into, is a race. And so a McDuck Manor is going to be a good start, but still, at the same time, the Beast is currently boosted. It has damage on it, so it will be able to at least take out things. And then the Pete's going to also be able to take out, the Alice and the Doc. And so that's a little scary. I would almost even want to play the Cogsworth over the McDuck Manor, because it just doesn't necessarily feel like the McDuck Manor is going to be lasting. If the Beast wasn't on the board, then I would much rather be playing the McDuck Manor, just because you would have to send everything into it to be able to deal that 9 damage. And that is a lot of slowing your opponent down on that front. And so you just got to be so careful, though. But the Beast being on board, it having damage, and being able to also, because I think it's a +4 when it has damage on it. Let me see. I believe it's a +4. And so that is a big game changer, and why you would necessarily not want to play it in that case. And so everything's pretty much going to be getting wiped out here. And at the same time, NateDog's going to be pretty much top decking. And so, yeah, it is a +4 with the Beast. And that is scary to have to go against here. And then double Diablo. Oh my gosh. I mean, discard is doing exactly what it needs to do. This is a scary board state, but still at the same time, depending on what NateDog can go ahead and top deck here, will it be enough? And in this case, no, I don't. Unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily. I mean, the Pluto's nice, and it coming in as bodyguard is great. That's going to mean that, the Pete could potentially go into that. And it would take 4 damage and still be able to survive, and then the Beast could very well just go ahead and quest like crazy and nothing to worry about. But at the same time, it looks like HeartThrobbed is going to be able to get this game to pretty handedly, especially with the double Diablo and NateDog only being able to top deck here. That's not going to be something that you necessarily want to have to worry about. And so it'll be interesting to see then what's going to be happening and how to get this done. And so, yeah, it looks like they are going to be prioritizing taking out the Pluto here, as we see a dark screen. That happens every so often. Right before he was going to win. He's like, I know I was about to win, but I just got to peace out here a little bit. Game 3 going on right now, and so this is going to be coming down to it. Both competitors have gone ahead and won one game. And now here they go for the final game. Will they be able to go ahead and take this? Now at the same time, NateDog will be able to go ahead and start first. And we saw just how fast, he was able to ramp up, and how crucial it was to be able to have the Alices in and to stop a lot of the bounce back from being possible. And so here we go, guys. We have a lot of exciting things coming your way with this Game 3 to determine the match. HeartThrobbed is playing the discard. NateDog is playing the Aggro Blue Steel, and here we go. It is going to be an exciting time, I'm sure. And so, anyway, guys, it's going to be interesting to see then how HeartThrobbed is going to be able to manage this final game. Going second, especially with discard, can be a pretty big disadvantage here, especially going against an aggro deck, because being that one turn ahead, being able to get that 3 lore down, get some good characters out, get some things moving, especially like, for example, when you need to play that Ursula out, it is such a big difference maker being able to play Ursula out on turn 3, and then the next turn, after your opponent's done their turn 3, then you can go ahead and start taking care of their board state. That is so different than after they finish turn 4 and then your Ursula can go ahead, because you got to be so calculated on how to go ahead and maneuver around, especially being on the draw. There is such an advantage of going first. And so that die roll really could be a make or break here for NateDog being able to win this match. And same with, having even, having Heartthrob be able to go ahead and get back into this game. And so you got to try to figure out, how do you go ahead and get your opponent, as, Heartthrobbed is already trying to do. How do you get your opponent to be that turn behind? How do you get back into this game? With Sapphire, it can be a little bit easy, because if you go ahead and play a Tipo and you're able to gain up that lore and start getting ahead in that sense, then you can really almost take back that loss of going first in that case, and you get that early game card draw, which can be a very big game changer as well. And so that's a very interesting thing to have to do. How do you go ahead and get back that disadvantage of going second here? And so you got to be careful about how you maneuver about this, but a Sticky Mickey is going to be coming out with a Popsicle to draw a card. Is an Alice going to be? Yep, Alice will be then banished to have it come out onto the field. And so if a Diablo ends up coming out, then there is a good chance that NateDog might be able to have the removal needed to be able to take it down. Now, of course, the Diablo will be able to still reveal every single card in NateDog's hand, which is still going to be a good advantage. Now, at the same time, seeing a Hypnotize getting discarded like that is going to be good, but that's going to be it for Heartthrobbed in that case. That is not necessarily the start that you are going to be wanting to say at the same time, unless he's hoping to maybe save his Diablo. But there's a good chance that he might not have had the Diablo in his starting hand. And so here we go with a Smee coming out with a Bell, a Quest for One, and passing. So again, we're going to be seeing some good aggro going on, trying to get up to that 20 lore as fast as possible, especially when you're going against discard. The Ursula might be coming out now in that case. And yep, there it is. We're going to be able to see the hand, but no removal. 2 McDuck Manners and a Calhoun is going to be down in the hand as well. And that's going to be a little bit scary as well, because, I mean, at the same time, like I said, the Beast isn't necessarily on the board in this case, so the McDuck Manor can put in absolute work. And it looks like here we're just going to be going wide and racing to the finish, trying to get as far ahead as we can here. And then the McDuck Manors very well could be coming out on the next 2 turns. And right now, we also see that Heartthrob only has now 3 lore out onto the field, and that is going to be a pretty big game changer. But if the Ursula comes out, there can be, yep, there's the Ursula. So some damage control could necessarily be coming in. But at the same time, if NateDog happens to top deck, potentially a, Zeus or something along those lines to take care of the Ursula, then this game could really start moving. But still, it looks like in this case, nope, none of that. But still, being able to go ahead and get another ton of lore with an Alice now out onto the field. Again, just racing to the finish as fast as you can is going to be an absolute game changer here for NateDog to be able to get this game going. At the same time, though, we are going to need Heartthrob to get some things bounced, get some things destroyed, anything to be able to try to slow down NateDog by any means necessary before he starts getting closer to that 20. And still hard casting the Diablo here, that's going to be costing him his entire lore. And he is considering what actions do I sing? And it's going to be a Strength of a Raging Fire, dealing 3 damage to the Calhoun and the Bell. And that's going to be some great cleanup to have right there. Now, still at the same time, you're still going to be able to go ahead and, quest for 4 in this case, which is still going to be putting you up to 12. And then, of course, whatever other cards he has in his hand. And again, we're going to be seeing the whatchamacallit's coming out, the McDuck Manors, which right now, Heartthrob doesn't necessarily have anything to really easily deal that 9 damage. You can't go ahead and have, Ursula double sing, the Zeus's, because it doesn't cost enough in that case, which is a good thing. Could you imagine having an Ursula double sing Zeus? That would be just absolutely insane here. So, I mean, this is a great, great opportunity here. Both characters have Ward. The only way that you're going to be able to take it out, I mean, you're going to be able to have Ursula and Diablo attack into the Alice here in that case, but that would be really the only way that it would be able to. And so at the same time, then you're still gaining 3, you're going up to 16, and then you play the second McDuck Manor. And I mean, that's going to be a decent move as well. And so, I mean, both characters do take that 1 damage. But still, whatever NateDog happens to go ahead and top deck, if he's able to go ahead and get another McDuck Manor out onto the field, then this game might very well just be as good as done in that case, because that is such a scary thing to have to deal 18 damage. And if you can't, that game's as good as done. But instead, he is going to be opting to go ahead and do a Zeus on the Ursula in that case. Questing for 1, going up to 16. And there is a time clock. And I unfortunately do not think that Heartthrob is going to be able to answer it. And the Zeus being able to go ahead and do something, I mean, that's a great turn as well. You just got to be a little bit careful about how you go about that, because if you do keep songs into your hand, or really if you keep any songs in your hand, or any cards in your hand, there's a good chance that you might be discarding it. Going ahead and playing a Hypnotizer, things of that nature, can just be so difficult to be able to do. But it looks like we are going to be inking a Diablo in that case. And then playing a Morph, and then, I'm like, playing a Morph and then shifting into a Beast. So, but nope, looks like it's still going to be able to go ahead and play that. But at the same time, again, 4 damage going into that McDuck Manor, and that it's going to be 18, soon to be 19, with the questing for 1, and it's like you just try to go as fast as you can. So 2 damage in that case to the Diablo. And that's still going to be a card draw because you draw 1 off of the ability. So 1 Diablo is at least going to be able to. Actually, in that case, I think the other Diablo still would activate in that case, so he would draw an additional card as well, because it's the same thing as if Lyle gets banished from the board, he still checks the board for himself as well, kind of thing. And so still, the Donk coming out in time is going to be absolutely clutch right there as well. So unless he's, of course, able to go ahead and get some bounce back while also taking care of the McDuck Manor, he has 2, 3, 4... Yeah, 4 damage that he's able to do. He's not going to be able to do enough. He needs to get 9 damage onto that. And yep, he should have drawn twice in that case. Because, yeah, the second Diablo, even though it is getting taken out by the Let the Storm Rage On, it still gets added to the stack. And then you would still draw the additional card, even though the Diablo is getting taken out. And yeah, Cricky would be just an absolutely paramount play right here for them right now. And unfortunately, I do think it's going to be too little too late, though. Oh, gosh. Yeah, Cricky would be good, but that would be costing all of his lore in that case, and the Doc would still be on the board to secure the game. But a Cricky is just such a great card to have in this game, or in this deck as well. Just being able to boost everything +3 for 5, and a Cricky that can quest for 3 as well is just absolutely insane. And so, and I'll be sure to message, what's his name, or I keep saying Lore Content Fam, But HeartThrobbed, I'll message him after and let him know, hey, just so you know, you do draw 2. Just for the timing as well. But it looks like that is going to be pretty much game as well. Just not going to necessarily be able to do much from this. And so we don't talk about Bruno still going to be a great move, bouncing back a Mickey and then discarding a card at random, or at the same time being able to go ahead and bounce back the dock. But still, guys, I think that is going to be it. It looks like HeartThrobbed is going to be scooping here, and that is going to be game 3 going to NateDog and the match. I mean, that is about as great and crazy as a game as we could go. So we saw game 1. The aggro from NateDog was able to just hit the ground running. Double Alice on the board is absolutely insane. And that is so difficult to have to counter there. And it's like, gosh, how do you even do that? Especially as a discard deck. Double Alice onto the board, gaining, 5 lore a turn that you then have to take out. And even then, even if you don't want to gain the 5 lore, you can still quest for 4 and give 2 other characters ward that can then quest on the additional turn for more. And so, we saw just how fast NateDog was able to move with that. Then at the same time, game 2, HeartThrobbed was able to build up his board exactly how he needed to, be able to get the beast down onto the board that was able to just put in massive amount of work, dealing insane amount of damage, as well as the discard, making NateDog be unable to go ahead and do much of anything at that point in game 2, and we then went to game 3 where NateDog again was able to just go full aggro, hit the ground running at everything that he was able to do. And it was just a great match for NateDog and a great match for HeartThrobbed. All in all, though, very happy to see how HeartThrobbed was able to do. Great game. Great to see discard back in this meta. I say that kind of grudgingly, but at the same time, I'm still glad that we at least have a wide meta here. And I'm glad to see that, discard is coming back into the tier 1 meta. Great games from both competitors, guys. We are still in at the end of week 1 of this league, and there is so much exciting things coming your way. So many things yet to be had. We have a mid-season tournament that's going to be coming your way. 83 competitors here in this league, and it continues to grow. It is exciting to see. Thank you guys so much for being here and being here a part of this stream as well. And until next time, guys, have a good one.